You know, Alan Watts once pinpointed our greatest fear actually coming in the form of a question, that sort of like direct confrontation, like just who the hell do you think you are? Which, if you imagine that direct confrontation from anybody, like really sort of makes our heart jump. Um, the interesting thing about that is it really is at the root of all issues, really. All anxieties, all depression, all tensions, all pain, everything comes down to that identification of really how you use the word I and what that means to you. We're kind of conditioned in society that if you ask, like, okay, who are you? You immediately respond, you give your name, maybe you give your occupation, maybe, tell some things about you, hobbies you like. Oh, I'm a surfer, or I'm a football player, or like whatever that is. Which, is very superficial. It's a very, very shallow way of viewing what you truly are. Some people identify their I with their body. But the interesting thing when that comes with really questioning, like, what is the body? When you say your body, is it just this physical thing, this solid block of matter, or are you talking about like the literally billions of processes going on like inside you that form that body, the 350, or I think it's 350 trillion like neurons firing in your brain every single second, the billions and billions of cells that outnumber even the stars in our galaxy. You're all of these things going on simultaneously in the form of a process. Like our entire body replaces every cell every 7 years. Every 7 years you're not even the same physical body as you were before. So really, like, when it comes to inquiry and examining these things, we discover that we aren't so much this matter as we are the process of this matter, the motion that exists within this matter. You are the energy that carried through from your birth to your childhood, and to be perfectly honest, before that and after, before you were born and after you die, that same energy and momentum continues through you. That's what we call a soul in its most simple definition. It's just this momentum and energy that carries through. Our problems come in identification with the events and the nouns in our life. We see ourselves, we identify ourselves with a pronoun: he, she, them, it. Your name is probably the biggest form of identification, where you're given really a magical word by your parents, which then associate all kinds of adjectives to it. Like for me, Bryce is this, Bryce is that, Bryce is that. When you go and hang out with your friends and you start acting differently because you pick up these different attributes from them as a child, you come home and your parents will tell you, well, stop acting like Jimmy, that's not you. So like our name carries all these connotations and this weight in a way that restricts the expressions of that momentum, the true expression of like our soul force and essence. The relief from all tension and all pain comes in the identification, and when I say identification, I mean the point of awareness within your consciousness. And it becomes with the identification shifting from the nouns and the events and the circumstances back into the motion. That when your conscious attention comes from that point of motion, you realize that the true nature of existence, of all reality, is bliss, ecstasy, and joy. That's all that there actually is. Your experience of pain and sorrow or failure or doubt or all of these things are big identifying factors that your conscious awareness is focused on an event to define the motion of who you are, which that motion literally came from the Big Bang. It's like it exploded outward and everything took place where the photons came and the photons combined and formed atoms, and those atoms formed into molecules, and those molecules formed compounds, and eventually they got complicated, and you go and you have sugar phosphates develop, which form the spine of DNA, and those DNA come together and form the nucleus of cells, and those cells become more complicated from single cell organisms all the way up through the whole system, and it's all this one motion that created you, to where the entire events of the universe, when your father and mother came together in sexual bliss, shot you into the world as that continuation of universal momentum. I mean, it's incredibly beautiful in all of its aspects. It's like each of us is like just a straight miracle of existence. And so when you're not seeing yourself from this point of view, and point of view is something that is actually entirely unique to you and why you're here. Each of us has a unique point of view, which the universe created for a specific purpose. That point of view is an experience which the all, really wish to experience it through the vehicle of you. That's what we are. And your true, the truth of you, the truth of yourself comes like from your unique perspective and your unique energies and your unique actions that take place because of this momentum carrying through you, this the entire force of the universe through the vehicle of you. So what part of the process you identify with, or what part of the process you claim as you, is entirely up to you. You're all of it. And in that manner, you are God. And to restrict yourself from anything less than that is really to blaspheme that divine nature of who you are. And luckily for us, the biggest indicator that we are blaspheming this nature is in the occurrence of sorrow or depression or sadness or pain in our life. It's a direct indicator that the will is suspended, or the orbit of our motion has been suspended, and that causes tension for a purpose. And if you really think about it, this tension, is in fact the will of the universe. It's your soul willing that you experience these pains to realize that it's not who you really are, that this pain and suffering is only a process of your mind that's getting in the way. The mind is actually the most wonderful tool that we have. It's a vehicle that allows us to interpret these stimuli and interpret the universe and move freely throughout it. But most of us elevate the mind to the driver's seat, where we allow the machine to operate the driver rather than the driver the machine. And these processes of the mind are really what get in the way of experiencing who you really are. All of this is great theoretically, but until you actually experience it and you actually feel yourself as this, it's just going to sound like a nice bunch of pretty words. The challenge to you comes in drawing your conscious attention to where it is you are identifying, to what actions you place your eye on, to what adjectives you describe yourself with, to things you do to avoid this as well, like your routines, your escapes. Like, do you come home from work and flip on the TV and have a beer so you can do what? To not feel it? To not feel the pain of your life? To not feel the tensions that are coming up with you? What you're doing is you're restricting your chief indicator of what your true will and what your soul has come here to do. You're restricting your destiny by snuffing these emotions. Like, you always hear people like, oh, I feel too much, but the fact is, is like, you don't feel enough. If you felt enough, you'd feel only joy. If you felt the entirety, you would actually realize the true nature of everything. So when you continually stuff these emotions or escape from these emotions, you're running away right at the door to your freedom. It's like you're coming right up to it, and it's knocking and it's banging and it's shaking you and it's screaming, and you're like, you feel this pain of this birth canal that just squeezes and pushes and contracts you, which if you continue through that, you're going to shoot out the other side in this concentrated beam of light that just like spills out into everything that you do in the world. But most of us come right up to the door of that, and then it starts to feel uncomfortable and we run the other way. I mean, I say get uncomfortable. Pinpoint everything in your life that makes you feel extremely uncomfortable and go directly into it. Place yourself as far out of your like comfort box as you can get. Because you're going to realize something when you do that. You're going to realize that those things don't define you. You're actually infinite. Nothing defines you. No actions, no words, the past, the future, the present. None of these take away from the infinite nature of who you are, which is the very momentum and force and fire of the universe. That's what you are. I mean, try that if that question comes up. Who the hell do you think you are? I am the momentum, strength, force, and fire of the universe. Who the fuck are you? Like, I'm just like, see where that goes. But, you know, the whole thing of like wallowing in our pity and feeling bad for ourselves doesn't do anything. It's just like, it's just a merry-go-round. You're just gonna go around the wheel and, you know, just feel bad for yourself, feel bad for yourself, feel bad for yourself. Oh, everyone pity me, and they come and they pity you, and everyone's feeling bad. Like, that doesn't do shit. Like, we have to stop doing that. It's like Crowley says, if you want to help someone realize who they are, take them in their lowest moment and strike them down and throw them into the hell that they fear the most. Because in those fires, you will realize what's true and what's false. We gotta stop being such cowards. Like, we avoid this. We should be thrusting ourselves into the fire with an excitement and a joy for it. We should really like revel in this transformational process because it's beautiful and it feels incredible. And when you come through those fires and realize that you can't be burned, that nothing can happen that will ever suspend who you truly are, that if they kill you right now in this moment, that you are just going to continue straight forward into the next one and there's going to be no gap, that's when you're immortal. That's when you're a god. And all these distractions are only stimuli to enhance the pain and the tensions and the anxiety to a breaking point where you realize this. So do not avoid these things. Amplify them. If you're ready to lose your shit and freak the fuck out, then lose your shit and freak the fuck out. If you're ready to have a mental breakdown, run into it. Have the mental breakdown. If you're ready to like drop a bomb and detonate your entire life as you know it, if you feel like running away from your family, if you feel like doing any of these things, get it over with now. Like, stop waiting for it. Then you're going to discover the truth of who you actually are. You're going to see it straight up. Anyway. Hope you enjoy this video. I'll talk to you later.